Hey everyone, welcome back to how to use HoloPlay Studio tutorials. And for this tutorial, we're going to focus on importing different file types into HoloPlay Studio to view as holograms. When you first open HoloPlay Studio, you'll see two tabs to the right, Properties and Add Holograms. Properties becomes available to us once we import a hologram, so let's go over what types of holograms you can import. First, we'll look at iPhone portrait mode. If you have an iPhone, you probably have portrait mode capabilities. When you take a photo in portrait mode, you're able to adjust the focus and depth of field of your photo, which can make editing your photo look more professional with little effort. What's cool about portrait mode photos is that there are actually two photos in each photo. One RGB photo that you see, and another hidden depth map of the photo. HoloPlay Studio can read that depth map and automatically display your iPhone portrait mode photo in 3D on your display. So let's import a photo. I collected a bunch of different file types to go over pretty easily for this tutorial, so I have them all in this one folder. Select iPhone portrait mode photo and click OK. Importing a portrait mode photo like this opens up depthiness and focus properties for you to adjust to make your photo as in focus and as 3D as possible. It also populates your photo in your playlist to the left, but we'll go over that in the next video. Hey y'all, it's Missy from the future, and I've got breaking news. With HoloPlay Studio 1.2, which is out now, you can not only import iPhone portrait mode photos, but also photos from your Android phone. Check out our doc site for a full list of what Android phones are compatible with HoloPlay Studio. Okay, back to the past. I mean your present. Alright, now that you get iPhone portrait mode photo, let's move along to RGBD images and video. RGBD images and video function pretty similarly to portrait mode, but instead of being hidden, the depth map is attached to the RGB image or video. That's why it's called RGBD. There are many ways to get RGBD content, including Record 3D, an iPhone app that takes video that you can export into RGBD, Depth Kit, a software that uses depth cameras like the Azure Connect camera to create 3D video footage, and our very own 2D to 3D conversion software, which allows you to take any photo and generate a depth map for it. I'm going to import a 2D to 3D converted photo of my friend's cat, Biggie. So I just import RGBD image video, and then I make sure that the depth map is set to right, which it automatically is. And that just means that the depth map is sitting to the right of its RGB pair. That's important to note because sometimes that's not the case. I don't think that there's a format that's been settled on between everyone that's exporting RGBD. So it can be above, below, to the right, to the left. It just depends on where you're getting it from. The properties revealed to us are very similar to portrait mode properties, except now we can use the advanced settings to adjust our RGBD image. Okay, let's import footage exported from Depth Kit. As you can see, this video has the depth map sitting below the RGB and isn't black and white. So I select bottom because the depth map is at the bottom. And then I also select chroma depth because instead of black and white depth map, it's a color depth map. And I also select depth inversion. So with depth inversion, sometimes softwares choose to make the black point the closest point to the camera view instead of white. And when that happens, you want to choose depth inversion. This is kind of a shameless plug, but if you want to learn more about depth maps and creating other 3D content, but in this case in particular about depth maps, just follow me on my TikTok at KidPsychic, and I have videos that go over what a depth map is, videos about 3D scanning, and pulling volumetric video into the Looking Glass portrait. So I just hit play to let the video play through, but we'll go over playlist functionality in the next video. In the meantime, let's skip on forward to Quilt images and video and check those out in HoloPlay Studio. Okay, so a Quilt is a Looking Glass factory image and video file standard for capturing and viewing 3D content. By default, with a couple of exceptions, including 2D to 3D converter and this application, HoloPlay Studio, our software exports quilts. This includes our Unity plugin, our Unreal plugin, our Blender plugin, diorama, depth recorder, and 3D model importer. If you take a look at this diagram that was neatly made for y'all, you can see that each section of the quilt or video represents a view of the 3D scene, with the bottom left tile representing the leftmost view of the scene and the top right tile representing the rightmost view of the scene. It looks like a quilt, and that's why we call it a quilt. When you export a quilt from Looking Glass software, the file will generally have this thing QS 8x6 or something like that at the end of the file name, because that naming convention actually serves a purpose. It tells HoloPlay Studio the tiling format of your quilt that you're importing, because otherwise you'll have to count the tiles of the image yourself, and if you're like me and can't for the life of you figure out rows versus columns, you're going to be really annoyed.
Yikes!
So I'm going to show you an example of a quilt image and then also a quilt video. And I'll first import a quilt that I exported from Blender of a cute robot character that I made. And if you want to see some of the process behind that and how you can model in real 3D in Blender in your Looking Glass, then you can check out this video. Also link in the description. And you'll see in the Properties tab, you have columns and rows available for you to edit, which you should only need to use if your quilt didn't have its tiling in its name. Use device ratio allows you to automatically use the aspect ratio of the device you're connected to. The Looking Glass portrait ratio is different from the 4K and 8K ratios. Basically, if you export a quilt from a 4K device and then try to view it on a portrait, you'll need to uncheck the device aspect ratio and make a custom aspect ratio below. Okay, so next I'll import a quilt I made in Diorama, and this particular quilt, actually, you'll notice that it's the same portrait mode image that we imported in HoloPlay Studio, but I pulled it into Diorama and I made some cute 3D edits to the actual photo. Okay, now let's move on to light field photo sets. A light field photo set is a collection of captures of the same scene offset horizontally. In fact, the quilts that are exported from our software are actually light field photo captures of the virtual scene, generally 48 captures, that can then be read in HoloPlay Studio. If you use a photo rail and capture a scene from right to left or left to right, you'll be able to import these photos into HoloPlay Studio and view them in 3D. Select the folder where your photo set lives, select the first photo in the list, and then select light field photo set and then OK. The properties made available to you are focus, which we're familiar with portrait mode and RGBD photo properties, and view order reversed, which allows you to switch the order of frames from last to first instead of first to last in your set. This photo set is actually a virtual light field of a 3D model scene created by awesome artist Jay House. Let's pull in a light field set created from a real-world camera just in case you're more interested in real-world photography. And here it is. So you might have been wondering while we were going through all the file types, just how was I adjusting the cropping and framing in the display? So in order to do that, just move your cursor to the connected Looking Glass, scroll up and down with mouse wheel to zoom in and out, and click and drag to move the hologram around. Your changes automatically save until the next adjustment. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot. You don't have to add a hologram one at a time. You can drag and drop multiple files and then assign which hologram file type they are right into HoloPlay Studio. So, just an extra note. Alright, and that's it for file types for HoloPlay Studio. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please take a second to like and subscribe so that we can keep delivering you really awesome tutorial content for your Looking Glass display. And stay tuned for the next HoloPlay Studio tutorial on this list, playlist functionality.